the SPARTA Facebook page and the Zoom platform, which I think we have about 200 plus attendees. Thank you very much po. And now for a brief background on Project Sparta. Officially launched on February 24, 2020, Project Sparta has been at the forefront of ensuring a vibrant data science and analytics ecosystem and has consistently lobbied for good governance practices in the country. Made possible by the Department of Science and Technology, the Development Academy of the Philippines, the Analytics Association of the Philippines, and Course Bank. This project was conceptualized to establish a smarter and data-driven Philippines by producing outstanding DSA courses. And since its inception, the project has welcomed more than 35,000 scholars. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Project Sparta webinar on keeping up with data revolution. And to formally open the program, please allow me to introduce our esteemed resource speaker. She is the Division Chief of the Human Resources and Institutions Development of the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development, or PSHERD. And PSHERD is one of the Sectoral Planning Council of the Department of Science and Technology and Innovation Council of DOST that provides funding opportunities for researchers, scientists, engineers, and other R&D professions in the country. She has more than 26 years of professional experience in the field of research and development administration and has led various multidisciplinary, interinstitutional, and international research teams in the country for project or program conceptualization, R&D research funding mechanisms, strategic planning, policy formulation, local and international linkages, human resources and institutional development and management, and technical consultancy services. She studied in the University of Santo Tomas, where she obtained his Master of Biology, his Master of Science in Biology, and Doctor of Science degree in Biological Science, major in Molecular Biology. Her research interest includes DNA barcoding of medicinal plants, bioinformatics, plant systematics, environment researches, and human resources or institution building. Friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I now give you P-Shirts Dr. Ruby Raterta. Magandang hapon po, Dr. Ruby.
Good afternoon to everyone. To our panelists, Dr. Alan S. Cajes, Vice President and Sparta Project Lead from the Development Academy of the Philippines. Mr. Simon Anthony Lorenzo, Assistant Professor of the Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research under University of the Philippines, Diliman. Mr. Gabriel Christopher Zong, Emerging Technologies Consultant, Cyrolytics Research Service. And to all our guests and researchers, good afternoon again. I'm pleased to be part of today's Sparta online webinar on keeping up with data revolution. The objectives of this seminar, which are to signify the need to effectively communicate with data, to discuss the work process of data preparation, as well as to discuss the key ingredients for data visualization and data storytelling, are very relevant today as we are now more compelled to present our results through various social media and electronic platforms. Being able to visually present data that is easily comprehensible makes it easier for us and for our clients to understand large sets of data usable for decision-making purposes. This early, I would like to thank our excellent team of experts, researchers, business partners, stakeholders, and colleagues for their continued support as we take our data science journey to improve our government processes and solve the country's major pressing problems. Some of you may have already worked with us, but please allow me to introduce the Innovation Council. In 2010, DOSTP Shared was created to serve as the central agency in the formulation of policies, plans, and programs, as well as in the implementation of the strategies in industry, energy, and emerging technology sectors through several S&P programs. We have actually a five-fold mandate that captures the entire roster of programs and projects undertaken by Fisher. First, we have the R&D support program, which provides financial support for research projects consistent with our proper priorities. The human resource and institution development, which we belong to. We encourage Filipino researchers to be more productive by providing support for disseminating their research outputs. We also aim to strengthen the capability of our institutions to undertake research in S&T fields included in shared priority areas. We also have S&T information dissemination and promotion, as well as support for tech transfer and commercialization, and then, of course, policy development and advocacy. Activities are pursued in collaboration with experts, technology users, and other stakeholder groups of the Council. We actually provide R&D support to 21 sectors, generally categorized under industry, energy, and emerging technology and special concerns. Fisher envisions to be a recognized leader and preferred partner in S&T and innovation on industry and energy emerging technologies, contributing to the nation's productivity and competitiveness. And to achieve this vision, the Council is committed to provide strategic leadership in enabling innovations in industry, energy, and emerging technology sectors. Right now, our modern technology dictates the need to develop a data literate population able to collect and process big data for research and for supporting decision makers in their planning process. With this, DOST and Fisher came up with the idea to conduct massive training on data science and analytics delivered through an online learning management platform. Some projects and activities later will be presented. And the Smarter Philippines for Data Science Adoption, Reskilling, Training, and Adoption, or SPARTA. It was actually approved in 2019, and we are happy to note that there are already more than 37,000 enrollees under the various pathways. We at DOS are working on more projects to make sure everything is in place for the Philippines to be a smart country that continuously grows through innovation. Under the good governance, we have a project that is entitled Good Governance Through Data Science and Decision Support System, or otherwise known as GADES program for DOSTP Shared. We are envisioning to address the gap in the country's workforce for data scientists and inspire the government to adopt data-driven governance and evidence-based management. The graduates from SPARTA are developing innovations on good governance through data science and decision support system. And to date, under the GADES program, we are now supporting the development of the following capstone projects and applications. We have projects under the decision support system for preemptive evacuation for disasters caused by flood. Optimization of decision support system for effective e-governance on preemptive evacuation for flood disaster, amidst COVID-19 in Cagayan Valley. It is now being implemented by Isabela State University. This is otherwise known as Odyssey. We also have an employment platform services or portal, which is entitled Development of Iloilo Province Employment Portal and Services, or IPEPS, with data analytics by the Iloilo Science and Technology University, or ISATU. We also have a national park management system, a 100-island national park management system, implementation of smart tourism, which is now being implemented by Pangasinan State University, or PSU. We also have one that focus on automated tariff collection system of LGU, which is entitled Development of Urdaneta City Market Tariff Information System, which is now implemented by Urdaneta City University, or UCU. We also have a smart garbage collection and monitoring system, which is entitled the Gupan City Smart Garbage Collection and monitoring system by Lyceum Northwestern University, or LNU. Another one, we have a system that focus on social welfare services for senior citizens, entitled Development of Data Analytics and Information Systems, or Support on Social Welfare Service for Senior Citizens of Butuan City. This is now being implemented by Father Saturnino Urios University, or FSUU. The last one, we also have a FieldRise Data Analytics Initiative, which is now implemented by FieldRise. And there's another one, sorry, but we have another Vision Basic Traffic Monitoring System for traffic administrators, entitled Prescriptive Navigation Through Vision-Based Traffic Monitoring for City of San Fernando, La Union, which is now being implemented by Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University, or DMSU. PSURD is actually strongly committed to support the development of data science and analytics. We have prepared a roadmap with a vision of mainstreaming the use of these projects and programs in local and national government units and agencies. The roadmap spells out the strategies in terms of human resource development for increased exposure and training of our researchers that can be agents for data analytics projects, generation of DSA-related R&D projects and technologies, facilities, services, and systems, as well as policies for partnerships and linkages, particularly for our regional partners and institutions. We at PSURD are optimistic that the 30,000 SPARTA graduates will share their knowledge and expertise to teach more Filipinos and creating a bigger community of data science and analytics practitioners. We also hope that they would develop projects to provide solutions to help our local government units, national government agencies, as well as other institutions to really come up with data-driven decision-making, track growth, and improve the quality of life of our countrymen. Well, of course, data science can certainly help the government and make quick and improved decisions. The usual connotation that government services are slow will be erased eventually, and thus we can help in enhancing productivity, transparency, and cost reduction. Privacy and the DOSP should also believe that these are the key guiding principles to achieve digitalization for the benefit of the public. Some of these principles are, of course, we have to have a data-driven or data-informed decision-making. building consensus based on evidence. We should have openness, enabling transparency and access of information. Design-driven, following the cycle of discovery or prototyping and delivery. It should be iterative, incorporating more agile working methods and rapid feedback cycles. User-focused, starting with user needs and testing early and often. Of course, we want some of the principles: interoperability, maintaining the ability to share data and functions across systems. And the last one is privacy and security, preventing unauthorized access to systems and data. Next slide. Next slide, please. Well, we would like to invite more partners to send participants to the SPARTA training. Through the GADES program, SPARTA participants can collaborate with fellow trainees from SUCs, HEIs, to develop a data-driven solutions for our partner institutions, and then allow the use of data for the Open Data Hackathon. If DTI needs help in developing technology projects applicable to their operations, such as streamlining of procedures and processes, there are experts available through our Balik Scientist program or RDLEAD program, which we are now monitoring under the DOST. We can also link you with state universities and colleges, higher education institutes and institutions, and RDIs or research and development institutes for collaborative R&D. Recently, during this pandemic, we have been exerting efforts to update and revitalize our existing human resource and institutional development programs. And we are now also employing roadmaps to better help us and those we serve to see eye to eye in terms of R&D direction. We've also added a few new components that cater to specific needs and aim to encourage mostly a more active participation of our researchers. We have the program on Prosper, providing resources and opportunities to support our researchers, scientists, and engineers. And then we also have the retool, which we provide state-of-the-art training. We give grants on this area. And then we also have the expertise. The expertise is an expert intervention for scientific engagement. So we hope that some of our researchers in the regions would be able to do a good proposal. So we wanted them to have immersion program with the industries within the regions. Then we also have the research, the regional research institutions or the regional consortia. We gave out funds for at least 1 million for new researchers and new institutions who would like to do research in terms of priority or focus on industry, energy, and emerging technology sector. So I will present to you our existing programs, and these programs provide opportunities to our researchers and scholars in the Philippines and may eventually help the local government in the region. So if you want to know more about our programs and projects, you may check our or connect with us through this social media account. So maraming salamat po and magbuhay tayong lahat.
Marami pong salamat, DOSTP Shirts, Dr. Ruby Raterta. Mabuhay po kayo, ma'am. And thank you so much for emphasizing the need for DSA to improve our government services na sana ay hindi na tayo matag as mabagal. To enhance DSA, to enhance productivity, transparency, and cost reduction. And of course, to solve the pressing social problems of our time, especially during these times of pandemic. And uh, we have over 200 plus attendees in this Zoom platform. And if you are joining us right now, kindly edit your name, please. Please write your full name sa profile nyo po, and then your agency name. Marami pong salamat. Moving forward, we would like to encourage everyone to view their screens for the audio-video presentation, and please don't forget po to mute your audio para po smooth ang ating webinar. So please view this Project Sparta's first year of implementation and accomplishments. Your attention, please. Are we having technical difficulties, Nico? Thank you for your attention. Truly, it has been a successful year for the Project Sparta, and we are so fortunate to have been given the privilege of implementing this initiative in the midst of the pandemic. And now, to discuss the work process on data preparation, allow me to introduce our first resource speaker, and he is Professor Simon Anthony Lorenzo. Prof. Monty Lorenzo graduated magna cum laude with a degree in BS Industrial Engineering in the University of the Philippines, Diliman, in 2014. He also obtained his MS Industrial Engineering degree with specialization in operations research, also from UP. He has been involved in consulting projects with banking and financial institutions and has conducted training on analytics and statistics. His research focuses on optimization studies, particularly in network and simulation models. He is currently serving as an instructor in the Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research in UP. He has taught subjects and training courses that deal with both deterministic and stochastic stochastic operations research and has served as coach in multiple industrial engineering competitions, both in and out of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Simon Anthony Lorenzo. Good afternoon, Sir Monty.
Good afternoon po, and good afternoon sa ating attendees. Can you see my camera? And can you hear my audio? Okay naman po.
Yes, sir,
Sige,
we can
so
hear
pati
you.
yung screen share, I think okay na dapat. Sige, so again, good afternoon everyone. I will be the first speaker for our webinar today, and my talk will be all about data preparation. Okay, so uh, the talk will be divided into three main parts. The first part will be about what data preparation is. Okay, next part will be what data engineering is all about. So what are the roles of data engineers? Okay, in analytics, and finally, we'll discuss the specific steps. Okay, in data preparation. Okay, so hopefully after this talk, lahat tayo ay maging one step closer to being data engineers or to being able to prepare data. Okay. So let's start with this question. What is data preparation? And to help answer this question, I'll give you an illustration. Okay, so let's first picture the situation. So let's say you're having your lunch and your lunch is a very big, well-made hamburger. Okay, so the hamburger has many parts, of course. You have your bread. Okay, the bread is very fresh. The meat is also fresh. Okay, so high quality meat. Wala masyadong taba. Right? Puro laman. We also have vegetables, some lettuce perhaps. Uh, may kamatis, and maybe a little bit of ketchup and mayo. Okay, so if we eat that burger, what will happen to us? So since all the ingredients are of high quality, then uh, we will be there will be a proper transfer of energy. Of course, if when we talk about eating, gusto natin yung taste, di ba? Pero we must also remember that it's also for nourishment. So if all the ingredients are of high quality, okay, our food will be able to provide us with proper nourishment. Okay. But what happens if the ingredients are not fresh? So if the bread has, forgive the visualization, pero let's say may molds na siya, luma na pala siya, yung kamatis din medyo nabubulok na, yung pork slash beef natin maybe hindi siya fresh, double dead, I guess. Okay, so if the ingredients are of low quality, what will happen to us? Okay, so in terms of nutrition, we will not be able to get the nutrition that we want, right? So this illustration is not only applicable to food. This is also applicable when we talk about data in terms of our system. Okay, so I would like to describe data preparation as ensuring that data is ready for system intake. Okay, so it is all about the process of formatting the data, uh, preparing the data, cleaning the data, okay? So ensuring that the data can be read by the system, okay? So there are so many steps involved in data preparation, but the general idea is you just need to make sure that the system will be ready to ingest or take in the data. Okay, so it's similar in that sense to cooking the food, preparing the food. Okay, even the process of buying the food itself. So where you buy it, okay, what quality of food do you buy? Okay, it's that process is parallel to the data preparation process. Okay, so we move on to the next main question. So what is a data engineer? Okay, so what does a data engineer do? So in relation to data preparation, preparation is a part of a data engineer's job, definitely. But when we talk about data engineering, it is not limited to data preparation. Okay, so data engineering as a whole, the discipline, okay, is the process of ensuring that the data is stored properly and the data is easily accessible by our system. Okay, so when we talk about analytics, we oftentimes hear of the data scientists, data analysts. Okay, so they are the ones that come up with our models, that are run our models, maybe machine learning models, okay, classification methodologies, ano pa ba, sentiment analysis, text mining, perhaps, yung mga ganun, all those flashy algorithms, right? So they're all done by data scientists and data analysts. But those procedures really cannot be done without data engineers. So data engineers assure that when the models are run, the data that is fed to the model is clean, it's readable, it's complete, right? So there's a popular adage, I'm sure everyone, maybe almost everyone here knows, in, garbage out, right? So it's very popular because it is very simple and very true, direct to the point, okay? You cannot have high quality output if you do not have high quality input. Okay, and the data engineer ensures that hindi garbage yung papasok sa system. The data engineer ensures that we have high quality data, that our burger is complete, okay? It's prepared properly. So that is the role of a data engineer. Okay. So again, data engineers really are not that flashy. Actually, I would say they are the ones that do the dirty work. Okay. They are the ones that act behind the scenes. So I would say they're pretty much underappreciated, undervalued. Okay. But their work is really very, very important. Probably as important as the data scientists themselves. Okay. So with that, we move on to the third and really the main part of our talk for today. How do we prepare data? How do we do data preparation? What are the specific steps when we do data preparation? So actually, when I was invited to do this talk and share my knowledge and experiences, the program required me to do a bulleted list of the steps to prepare data. And when I saw that, I thought it's quite a challenge. Okay, it's really quite a challenge to come up with a single list that would encapsulate data preparation for all scenarios. Okay, so why is that? Why would it be difficult? It's not that I do not know the steps to prepare data. It's that I would say, there is no single set of steps that would be applicable to any scenario. Okay, so with that, I would like to share you my number one rule when it comes to data preparation, and it's to know your system. Okay, so again, there is no single set of steps that would be applicable to all scenarios. I will be able to teach you different techniques, different things you can apply to your data set in order to process them, to prepare them before putting them into the system. But you need to know your system. Okay? You need to know what the system needs. You need to know what the system will accept. Okay, so when we talk about system here, it's just a general term. So maybe it's a program, okay, maybe it's a software, maybe it's a mathematical model. Okay, but in general, the system must be able to get your data. And obviously, since the word system is very general, that would vary from case to case. There are so many different systems wherein you will need to prepare your data. Okay, so yeah, so we must always remember this. Okay, you need to know your system uh, inside and out. You need to know it very well. Okay, so some examples of the application of this would be, so let's say you are working on data migration. Okay, so you are working for a small scale company, and the company decided to increase its operations. So from small scale, perhaps it will be a medium or large scale. Okay, so typically for small scale companies, all records will just be recorded. Yung iba, maybe manually written down. Some would store them in Word files, PDF files, some in Excel. Okay, but when you increase your operations, uh, storing the transactions, storing your data will not be it will not be practical if you still store it in Excel manually. Okay, so there will typically be a need to shift to dedicated software, dedicated data storage, um, such as Postgres, for example, or MySQL. Okay, so those specialized software will need specific inputs. So for Postgres, for example, so for those who don't know, Postgres is a database software. So it stores databases. Okay, and, generally speaking, okay, para lang may idea lahat. And of course, it cannot intake all types of data. There will just be specific data formats. So when we talk about data formats, perhaps you can input JSON data, you can input CSVs, Excels, okay? But hindi niya kukunin yung mga specialized formats, for example, ng mga software. Okay, so you need to know yung pupuntahan mong system. That's what I mean when I say know your system. You need for data migration for the new software, you need to know the specifics of the system you are moving into. Okay? Can it still read Excel? Baka naman kaya pa rin niya. Okay? So if that's the case, no problem. You don't need to adjust your data recording too much. But if it cannot read Excel and you previously only had your data stored in Excel, then that will be a problem. You need to study the system very extensively. Okay? So another example would be, for example, a very simple use of data would be applications to maybe some mathematical models, maybe as complex as machine learning or as simple as regression. So for regression models, what type of data would you need? Of course, you don't need to take in a lot of data. For regression, you only need, for simple linear regression at least, you only need uh, two two values, right? So two columns of data. So if the system is that simple, then it will be very easy to prepare your data for intake. Okay, so that is what I'm saying. Your or your requirements can be as simple as input for a regression model, but it can be as complex as feeding into a completely new system that you have not yet used before. Okay, so you need to know your system very well. So with this, I would still try to give you yung specific steps. Okay, so uh, with this being said, again, there is no single set of steps, but I will try to give you the general ideas, the general procedures that we need to take when we do data preparation. Okay, so I am going to divide the steps into two parts. Okay, so first is the steps we need to do before handling the data itself. So what do we need to do before we actually see the data, before we actually process, perform computations, perform descriptive statistics on the data? Okay, and there will be three main steps uh, for data preparation before handling the data, and those are data collection, okay, file type conversion, and data formatting. Okay, so what are these all about? So first is data collection. So what is data collection? It is the prioritization of which data to collect. Okay, so going back to our example a while ago, if you're in a migration procedure, okay, typically when you're migrating from one type of database to another, you would like to transfer all your data. Okay, so in terms of data collection, that won't be a problem. There won't be any prioritization required because you're transferring all data sets from the old system to the new. But if you're doing mathematical modeling, for example, you want to process it, you want to process the data uh, using your mathematical model, then you might need to prioritize your data. Okay, so let's say you're doing a time series analysis and you have data going back, sales data for a company, for example, going back all the way to 75 years ago. And you're trying to forecast the sales for the next 2 years, for example. Okay, so if you're trying to process, if you try to process all those data, 75 years worth of data, it would be very time consuming on your part. And in terms of the software, okay, it will be very extensive when it in terms of processing power. Okay, so you just need to focus in that. You focus your efforts in that specific scenario. It may be best to maybe just get data from maybe the last 10, 15 years, because beyond that, the data may not be applicable as much, because the situations are very different. The world is much more digital now than 75 years ago, right? So that also, of course, depends on the nature of the business. But that's the idea. Okay, there are certain scenarios wherein you process all your data, you prepare all your data, but there are also certain scenarios wherein you only need to focus on a specific a
Yep.
specific subset of your data, okay, and concentrate all your resources there. Okay,
Putang ina kasi.
so that the next one would be file type conversion. Okay, so for file type conversion, this would also be applicable to the software example a while ago. Okay, so again, for a specific example like Postgres, okay, it won't be able to process files that are in the format of PDF. It won't be able to process files in the format of .docx. So you need to get the specific file types that can be read by your system. Okay, so uh, I have plenty of experience in this. I actually had one consulting project which required the getting data from different file types, from different file sources. Okay, so some data are extracted directly from the internet. Some data are provided by private companies. Some data are in hard copy format. So you must marry all those different data types and make sure that the system is able to get your data in a file type that is compatible. Okay, so again, it really goes with knowing your system. Okay, so there's a specific bullet point for this, that because it really is a very big issue for data coming from various sources. I'm sure, sorry na back ko yata. Yeah, I'm sure some of you have already encountered this for those processing data. Okay, and finally, for this part, data formatting. Okay, so when we say data formatting, it is simply how your data is presented, what is the layout of your data. It's as simple as where is your first where is the first point of your data located in an Excel file, for example. Is it located in A1? Okay, or is there a header and it's located in A2, cell A2? Okay, so it's as simple as, is the table vertical, the orientation vertical, or is the table oriented horizontally? Okay, so 'di ba, it's really, I would say, very trivial, but there's a very very big impact if you don't ensure that the data formatting is standard. Okay, this problem is amplified if you're processing a lot of data from various sources. You must make sure that um, all the data coming in are of a single format. So typically, yung vertical table yung pinaka ginagamit eh. We often use tables uh, with a header per column, right? So the data is laid out per row. So you just need to ensure that all the data coming in is of that format, so that when the new system reads that format, there will be no problem. There will be no conflicts uh, with other data instances. Okay. Okay, so the second set is for actual data handling. So ito na yung mga I would say these are the steps, more detailed steps on what to do with data. Okay, once we have our hands on them. Okay, and again, please take note that not all of these steps are applicable in any situation. Okay, so there are only specific situations that would involve or that would require deletion of entries, that would require outlier handling, and so on. Okay, so you must be familiar with your system, as I keep emphasizing. Okay. So we have five steps, but as I said earlier, this is by all means not an exhaustive list. Okay, if you try to search if you try to search data preparation in the internet, I'm sure you would find other stuff that would not be here. But I am sharing you this list because first, this is based on my experience. These are the steps that are most frequently used. Okay, and second, again, we're trying to put this into a sort of a crash course. So, ito lang yung mga important talaga. So, again, you just do your research, and you can also enroll in Sparta courses. A lot of Sparta courses would deal with data preparation actually. Okay. So the first step is data entry deletion, okay? Data entry deletion. So what does data entry deletion mean? So as the word would suggest, it's deleting, outright deleting, okay, a row in your data set, okay? So when do we do this? When would we typically employ data entry deletion? Okay, so when data is very dirty, okay, and there is really no way to clean it. If let's say you have a row of data, or you have a column of data with, let's say, monthly earnings, okay, so the monthly earnings of the company, and they are usually in the hundreds of thousands, okay, and uh, there is one entry that is in the thousands only. So it doesn't really go with the other values. So it's one option to delete that row, because you know that that value is probably incorrect. It probably came from a typographical error. It probably came from inputting error, but that value is most likely not correct. Okay, so one option is to delete that entry. Okay, but we need to make sure that when we do entry deletion, okay, that data is not needed by the system. And I would say oftentimes that is not the case. Okay, so I would say it's very rare to delete an entire entry for data. There are actually alternatives to data entry deletion, and that would be the other steps in this list. Okay, so in particular for that scenario I just described, okay, we could do data imputation, or data filling, and or we could perhaps do outlier removal. Okay, so we classify that as an outlier. But we must remember that when we delete an entry in our data set, it will affect our data set gravely. So mababawasan yung our number of data points will be decreased, and of course the impact of that will be very much noticed when you only have a few data points. Okay, so for example, you only have sales data for the past 6 months, and you delete one of them because it's dirty, then that would further decrease our data set to 5 months only, right? Then mahirapan yung system natin lalo. So that's one thing. Again, one step we can do, data entry deletion, but this is very rare. Okay. So next is duplicate removal. So duplicate removal, this is very simple. Okay. So this is really just scanning the data set for duplicates. Okay. So typically duplicates come from, again, clerical errors. So when transferring data from one file to another, perhaps nadoble yung we pasted it two times, or we ran the code two times unintentionally. So that those would be examples. Uh, Duplicate removal, this is typically employed, okay, in the data cleaning stage, and this is I would say this is a pretty common step. So compared to data entry deletion, of course we do not do that as much. For duplicate removal, we can do this for every data set that we encounter. Okay, so again, how do we do duplicate removal? This is where our knowledge with Python, or perhaps R or some other programming languages would come in. Even just Excel actually has duplicate identification. So there are certain ways to code in Python wherein you would identify duplicates, and you just simply remove the duplicate row. Okay, so some caveats to that. There are cases where the data set would have exactly the same data, but it turns out that it's not duplicate. Okay, so when we do duplicate entry removal, we must ensure that it is actually a duplicate entry. Okay, and how would we best do that? It would be best if we have recordings of the transaction date/time. Okay, if we have the recordings of the transaction date and we see that there is a significant gap between the two duplicate removals. So for example, or sorry, the two duplicates. So for example, there's a 5-day gap, okay, between the two entries. Then it would prompt you to verify if that entry is really a duplicate, and it might turn out that it's not a duplicate. It's really just the data set would just really uh, would just really repeat. So for example, the same customer bought the same number of items, okay, but bought the same items on the same day of the week, resulting to the same total in the sales invoice. So it's possible. But since you identify that it occurred on different days, you can judge it as not duplicates. So that's where the time stamping comes in. Okay. And it's really part of your database design. Okay. So that is duplicate removal. Okay. So again, before you remove your duplicates, please make sure that they are actually uh, they're actually duplicates. Okay. So next is data conversion. So data conversion is similar to uh, what I discussed previously. So if you recall, there is file type conversion and data format conversion. But for this specific instance, we're dealing with the data itself. And one very common example would be the breaking down of date entries in our data. Okay, so oftentimes our data is stored this way. Our data is stored this way on the left, 6/22/21. Okay, so this would entail many difficulties. Okay, so when you cross to different countries, there are certain formats that would employ the day first, followed by the month, followed by the year. Okay, so kapag ganun na, we are lucky in this entry, we can easily identify the first one as the month and the second one as the day of the month because 22 siya, right? But if it's under 12, kunyari, it's 6/6/21. You won't be able to differentiate, okay? So yeah, that's one example. Okay. And if you take a look at the year here is 21. And of course, it's an abbreviation or shorthand for 2021, but directly transporting it to the system, okay? If we ask the system what year is this transaction, if it's retained in this previous format, it might give us the value 21, right? So it's not that clear. So one good way to deal with this is to break it down into its month, its day of the month, and its year. So 6/22/21 will be converted to the following format: June, 22, and 2021. Okay. So this would typically entail three new columns. So you have your date column, then you would add three new columns: that the month column, the day of the month column, and finally the year column. Okay. So again, we're converting the data so that it's much easily processed. Okay. So how would we convert this data? Of course, there's uh, always the very crude way of writing it down by hand. That's always an open option, especially if you only have a few data points. So let's say you're only converting 7 data points. Sulat na lang natin. It's much quicker to do it by hand or type it in Excel. Okay. If you have thousands of data points, however, it will be very impractical and you would need to do it programmatically. So how would you do that? Um, for this specific example, so some solutions that come to mind are, first, for Excel, you can actually perform data or text to column separation. Okay, so if you set your delimiter as a space as the slash rather, it would separate 6, 22, and 21. Now you can have your first entry, the month, put it into a VLOOKUP. This is in Excel, and convert it from 6 to June. Okay, that's the second entry, the day of the month. You don't need to convert it. For the third entry, to convert it to 2021, you simply need to add 2000. So something like that for Excel. For Python, there's actually, for those who don't know, there's actually a package, okay, for date time handling, and it's very, very, very useful. I suggest you look into it if you're dealing with a lot of dates in your data. uh, if you have data format like this on the left, you can actually extract a lot of data from it. Okay, so you can get the month, you can get the day of the month, you can get the year, you can get the day of the week, you can get the nth day of the year. So kunyari June 22, what day of the year is it? So that would be something like 180 plus, right? So it would give you that value if ever you need it. Okay, and so on. There are so many ways you can extract it, and of course it's also present in other programming languages. Okay, so data conversion, this is just for date. Of course it would also be present. So for example, if your data is sales in millions, or sales, but it's oftentimes in millions, you can express it as sales in millions by just simply dividing 1 by 1 million, right? So para lang it would convert the data to a shorter short it would shorten the data, the length of the column specifically. So that's another example of data conversion. uh, Oftentimes for data conversion, it's really very simple. The conversion to be done is very simple. So like this one, it's just parsing of a string. Okay, it's like dividing by 1,000, by 1,000, by 1 million to express data in thousands or millions. It's converting, if you have, let's say, record data of people in terms of feet and inches, so 5 feet 6 inches, and you would want to convert it to centimeters, you just use a formula. Okay, so again, very simple. Okay, but yun nga, it's oftentimes very important for clarity when we scan the data set. Okay, so at this point, I'm sure nakita niyo na yung pattern, right? So I've described data engineering as something that is very much overlooked but very important. And all of the things we've discussed so far are really very simple things, but the impact they have is very big. Okay. So next is handling missing values. So how do we handle missing values? So for example, the the scenario I described a while ago, if you have a data set with a missing sales value, and you know that all the other sales values are in the hundreds of thousands or in the millions, how would you put a specific value to that? Okay, so you have a missing value. Do I just delete it since I know that I don't have a value or I have a wrong value for that cell? So what you can do is you can data fill that cell, or impute. That's the term we use. We impute data for that cell using various methodologies. Okay, so some would suggest to put in the overall mean. Okay, put in the overall mean for that specific data set. Okay, some would suggest if you can do regression, you can uh, you can do the predicted value for that cell. Some would suggest you can do the median or the mode, but something that would suggest the central tendency value for that specific cell would be okay. Okay, and ito this is actually, I would describe it as sort of a gray area depending on situations. Okay, because it's something like cooking the books, or parang dinodoktor mo yung data eh. The data is really not there, but you're putting a value there. Okay, but the important thing here is you do not put a value that would be very favorable to you. So for example, gusto mo pag-fit yung data mo to a certain regression model, and you have a missing data point, you do not put a value that would benefit you just because it would benefit you. You need to put a value that is statistically sound, that is statistically correct as a value in that position. Okay? So there is a very fine line between yung pagdodoktor ng data and data imputation. Okay? So we must follow the proper steps, proper rules for data imputation. Okay? So we do not simply pick any data point and put it in a blank data set, or in a blank cell in our data set. Okay. And this is actually the last specific step. But again, this is only what I'm permits, and there's a lot of steps to be discussed really, but these are just the most common ones. So handling outliers. This is again a very common issue when we're processing data. So what are outliers? Okay, so statistically speaking, there are a lot of ways to determine outliers. So some of the more popular ones are, so one is determining the uh, points outside the plus minus 1.5 interquartile range. Okay, so for those who know Minitab actually employs that procedure for outlier removal. So you get the mean, you get the interquartile range, any point outside the quartile 3 plus 1.5 interquartile range, and minus quartile 1 minus 1.5 IQR would be outliers. Okay, so there's one definition. Another would be when it comes to statistical quality control, any point outside 3 sigma or maybe 6 sigma would be considered outliers. Okay, but statistically speaking yun. But uh, if we try to simplify it, what are outliers? Why do we handle outliers differently than the other points? Okay, outliers are data points typically that do not conform with our model. Okay, so if you have a regression model that roughly forms a line, and you have one single point that goes way above or so far from the line, okay, then that would obviously be an outlier. So what could have caused that outlier? Typically, there are what we call assignable causes. So there are things outside our model that would cause that outlier to have a value much less or much greater than the other values. So that is why we oftentimes exclude outliers. Okay, so when we have yung, for example, yun nga, sales data ulit. So we have daily sales data, and normally our sales for example, fictitious company would be 50,000 pesos a day. And there's this one day of the year wherein you had a sales value of 2 million. Okay, if you try to get the average of your sales, you should not include that value, because if you try to look into it, there's probably one specific person. So maybe may milyonaryong pumunta sa shop mo and bought everything. Okay, there's one person that may have bought a lot of things, but since it is not a norm, the norm for that person to buy, okay, since it does not occur regularly, it is not really part of our sales model for that person to buy all our stuff in a single day, you can expect that won't happen again, and you can simply exclude it. Okay, because it will bloat your average sales value. So that is a scenario wherein outlier removal is critical. Okay, where are scenarios, what's an example scenario wherein an outlier, again quote unquote outlier, should not be removed? So if you take a look at your Olympics, so very, very timely topic. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you know who Usain Bolt is. Okay, Usain Bolt. He was at one point in time the fastest man alive in the world, right? The person with the fastest, or the record time, I think world record time in the 100-meter dash, sub 10 seconds. Okay, so some people would classify that time, okay, that time to complete the 100-meter dash as an outlier, because if you take a look at the other people, there really is uh, no one that close to him. Okay, a lot of the other people are more than 10 seconds yung time to complete the 100-meter dash. However, if you think about it, there is no really special thing about that person, Usain Bolt, that would differentiate him from other people. He really is just perhaps has a better diet regime, has a better exercise regime, better prepared mentally. Okay, but there is no how would I describe it, uh or glaring difference. Yeah. There is no glaring difference from him and the other competitors, as opposed to my previous example wherein the sales normally come from regular people, but there's just this one day wherein a millionaire bought everything, right? So the difference is very big dun sa two scenarios na yun. And for the second scenario, if you're trying to get the average running time for the 100-meter dash, you would probably consider including the time of the fastest man alive when you get your average. Okay, so I've been discussing all these pointers, but again, it really just comes back to knowing your system. Okay, so does the system want the outliers? Does the system need to do the outliers need to be removed for the system to function? And again, that varies from different examples. So if you're getting the mean, probably uh, you probably need to remove the outliers. But if you're getting the median or the mode, there's really no need to do outliers. That's one example. Okay. So for date conversion, does the system take in this data format, the month slash day slash year? Okay. Or do we need to break it down to the specific month that is worded as follows, to the specific day, and to the specific year, 4 digits? Okay, and only we, the user of the system, okay, would be able to determine that. Okay, so I hope that's actually the end of my talk. I hope with this one, with the talk I just gave, kahit papaano, I was able to impart knowledge to you that it's really not black and white. There is no definite set of steps, right? And you must adapt your steps to your system. But I hope I gave you, even if just a broad idea, okay, I was able to give you what data preparation is all about. So thank you everyone for listening. And I'm actually I will answer your questions later on in the question and answer portion.
Yes po, later on, Sir Monty. Thank you so much for your very comprehensive lecture on the specific steps in doing data preparation. Napakaswerte po ng ating mga online viewers, especially in the field of engineering. And we also have some viewers on the Project Sparta Facebook page. Some are Sparta learners, some are rooting for you, Sir Monty. Ang dami niyo pong fans sa Facebook. And some are engineers by profession. And I saw viewers as far as Iloilo City, Bukidnon, Gingoog, and I even saw Sherwin Pelayo of the Analytics Association of the Philippines. Hello there, sir. And thank you so much again. Please stay with us, Sir Monty, for the open forum. Padayon po. And as a simple token of our appreciation, we are pleased to present this e-certificate signed by Dr. Alan Escajes, Vice President and Sparta Project Lead. Before we move on to our next topic, let's make this event a lot more fun and interesting. So we will pause for a while. So everyone, please give it up for Project Sparta's RV and Dane as they facilitate this icebreaker game. RV and Dane, you ready?
And thank you, Miss Eleanor. Isang mapagpalang umaga. Ayan, thank you, Miss Eleanor. Isang mapagpalang hapon sa ating lahat. We're wishing that you're still with us in this activity. Your activeness, engagement, and interest to be a data analytics professional are our aspirations towards advocating this data-driven initiative.
That's right. And we from Project Sparta are hoping that you had a good grasp about the earlier topics discussed because we are about to assess your knowledge about them. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm RV.
And I am Dane, and we are your game masters for this activity.
Okay, so before we start, we would like you to ask the most important question. Are you ready? Okay, so this activity is called Guess the Gibberish. Dane?
Ayan. So this activity is called the Guess the Gibberish. Have you paid attention to our presentations earlier? If yes, then you have already a great way ahead because as mentioned, the questions revolve around the discussion talked about earlier.
That's right, Dave. So before we start, let's start with the mechanics of the game. Okay, let's roll on with it.
So mechanics has always been an important thing in every game. So before we begin our activity, let us lay down the mechanics for this game. So this game is exclusive to Zoom participants only. The game masters will show random data science and analytics words or phrases, and players will need to guess the correct words or phrases by typing their answers in the Zoom chat box as fast as they can. So there will only be 5 winners for this game. The first person to answer the question correctly will be declared as the winner, and he or she will not be eligible to play in the next round. So before we begin, let us have some trial challenge first, and let's see if you can correctly guess this one. So we encourage everyone to participate in guessing what the gibberish is all about.
Yes, that's right. Please type your answers in the comment section below. So let's guess if you really get what this gibberish means.
Ayun, we already seen correct answers here, and the correct answer for this round is data science and analytics. So I hope everyone has a good grasp about this idea, and I think everyone is ready to be with us in the next round, RV.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure that everyone is really ready. Okay, so let's flash the first game. First question, okay? Okay, what is this?
Ayun, may
Okay,
nakasagot
we
na.
have a winner, yes.
Yes, we
So the
already have a
answer
winner.
is data preparation. Congratulations. Okay,
Yes,
next.
and our winner for this is Miss Aris Parazo. Yan, for our challenge number 2. Yan, maybe, ayun, meron nang nakasagot. At the correct answer for this round is data engineer. Congratulations. Was the winner RV?
Okay, the winner is, we have Paul Eugenio as the winner. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next question. Okay, what is this? What is this gibberish?
Ayan.
So we have a winner.
We have a winner already. And the correct answer for this challenge is
Data. What is it? Data formatting. Who's the
Yeah,
winner,
from-
Dane?
yeah, congratulations. And the winner for this round is S&P Global.
Okay. Next question.
Next
What is
challenge.
this?
Yan,
Since
may
we have a
nakatama.
winner.
Yes.
This one is Rendelin Mantiza. Congratulations.
And it's data conversion. And for our last challenge, guess the gibberish number 5. Ayun, may nakasagot agad.
Who is it, Dane? Who's the winner?
The winner is Miss Fritz Boyle Cruz. And the correct answer for this challenge is data imputation. Congratulations. So we already have 5 winners and expect from the Project Sparta team to give you an apparel counterpart for this.
Yes. These winners will win a Sparta hoodie. So congratulations again. So remember, as stated in the reminder that you should email your contact information, name, mobile phone number, email address, and home address to malyarem@dap.edu.ph. You're also encouraged to post a photo showing your prizes and tag Project Sparta's Facebook page using the hashtag SPARTA Webinar and Spartan Ako. Dane?
Yet again, don't forget to include your contact information that will send to Miss Malyari. Congratulations to all winners, and we hope that all of you had fun. Thank you. Back to you, Miss Eleanor.
Thank you, Dane and Arby. That was fun indeed. And thank you to our online audience for participating. Ang bibibo po ninyong lahat. Congratulations. And before we move on to another interesting topic, may we please request our online viewers in this Zoom platform to please be mindful of your audio. Kindly mute po all the time so that our resource speaker will not be distracted. And please pay your utmost attention. Thank you so much. And now, for the topic in the field of data science and analytics, and that is data visualization and data storytelling. And this will be presented by Mr. Gabriel Christopher Cricket Song. He is an electronics engineer by training. Cricket began his professional career in software development in GSM Networks. He spent weekends heading to Ifugao working with communities and guests, handling cultural exchange. After a brief break from the corporates, he found his calling in the academe focused on student formation and community engagement, spending 7 years in the praxis program of the Ateneo Loyola schools. Cricket did a stint with logistics and cold storage before deciding to be a full-time stay-at-home dad to their 2 small kids. Right before joining Cyralytics and Project Sparta, he was asked to help in the distribution and business development of Rice Pinas, helping cooperatives and get their produce to different markets, and continued to do even during the pandemic. And here's a trivia. Did you know that cricket is a Pinoy pride? In the late 2020, Cricket Song was a Space Apps Global nominee for Global Hazard Exposure and Resiliency Trends by Earth Observation and Analysis Tools, or Global Heartbeats. And this is an interactive tool providing geolocated information on natural and human hazards surrounding communities within the Philippines and Canada. And let's ask Sir Cricket more about that later on during the open forum. So without further ado, let us all welcome Mr. Gabriel Christopher Cricket Song. Sir Cricket, magandang hapon po.
Hi, Eleanor. Good day to everybody. I'll be sharing my screen as well. So yeah. Okay, so I hope everyone's safe. There are a lot of things happening right now, no? And I do hope that you are all in a safe space, and your families are also safe and in good health. I also hope that you've gotten your vaccine, or at least nakapila na, no? Lahat na ng pwedeng preparasyon just to keep us safe. We need to do it as well, no? So this afternoon, we will talk about visualization and storytelling, and then, as Eleanor mentioned, this is part of the 3 courses that I teach in Sparta, and we'll go through part of what I'll discuss during the course. And sige, you can contact us at Data Ethics PH or Cyralytics on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. You can follow us there, and we can discuss other topics as well, no? So I hope my audio is coming in clearly. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody or anyone from the group? Hopefully Everything's good. Thank you, Rafi. No? Sige, subukan natin na gawin as interactive as much as possible. And if you do have questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat or provide your reactions as well. No? Siguro madagdag ko lang dun sa nabanggit ni Eleanor kanina. No? So from the competition last year, we decided to join again. And then we actually became finalists as well for this year for the EO dashboard or Earth Observation Dashboard by ESA, the European Space Agency. So I was part of the team GiveSight. So it's geointelligent visualization of Earth systems in graphical historical timelines. And congratulations also to World Maki. They won for their mobility over air quality index. No? And these are the team members. No? Dalawang team to na lumaban. No? And this is open to everybody. So hopefully sa susunod, no, mas marami na kaming makita na kasama dito sa competitions na to. Okay. So the three things, no, we will go through the three phrases or sentences that you see before you, no. Parati ako natatanong, ano ba yung kaibahan ng visualization or storytelling, no? Ano ba dapat? And the second line comes from my former director as well as mentor, no? If the data is there, you collect it. And then for the last line, this comes from Nancy Duarte, one of the two main references I use for the course. And she says that expectations to be a good communicator is greater when you're working with data. Okay? So hihimayin natin yan through a couple of examples, and then of course I cannot give the full 4-hour course in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So bear with me and we'll go through as much. No? Okay, so for visualization or storytelling, it's not really one or the other. It's actually both. No, visualization and storytelling go hand in hand. In that you have to prepare the data that you have in such a way that it is understandable and that you are able to tell that story. So hindi pwedeng maganda nga yung visualization mo pero hindi ka magsasalita. No? Hahayaan mo na lang yung nakikinig sa'yo na intindihin kung ano ipapakita. Diba? And you also have to prepare and understand your own data and not rely on the fact that you're giving all the information to your readers or your audience. And then, of course, there's that need to encourage action. The reason for sharing that data is to engage people to actually let them make decisions and make changes on their part. Because sharing data, much like sharing something on social media, no? There's really nothing that engages people to do aside from reading what you posted. Okay, so it is both visualization and storytelling, and we have to practice both at the same time. Okay, so at the start of the program, naganap lang ako ng magandang or kakaibang paraan ng pagpakita ng recipes, no? Baka pwedeng magtaas ng kamay, sino ba yung nagbe-bake dito sa group, no, of 310 people, participants, no? If you bake, can you raise your hand? And then my kids love to bake, no? So one nice way of visualizing ingredients could be through a pie chart. And this guy, no, si Mark Wilson, created this visual and said, okay, this is one way to visualize a chocolate chip cookie recipe. So you'll see this in the course as well. And not all visualizations are actually good, and not all types of visualizations are applicable in every scenario. And this is one of the examples I give in the course, wherein these are the respondents to the survey that you will go through as you listen to my class. simply dividing the people or the participants by their age and having a corresponding percentage across the total respondent population. No? So parang medyo magulo, no? Hindi lahat ng visualization talaga matino. And off the bat, the black background maybe could be useful for outdoor presentations, but at the same time, the number or the colors that you see are indistinguishable, no? And hindi mo na alam saan nag-uumpisa yung 20 to 24. And then there's no clear division between the age groups. And if you notice, there's also the overlap between 55 to 59 and the group of 50 to 59. Okay? So parang hindi lahat ng visualization talaga matino. So in the latter half of this short talk, I'll show you how to fix this. Yeah. So if you have more than six items to display, don't use a pie chart. No? Use something else. Yeah. So ito rin, no? The mentor I was telling you about, the former director, kailangan kasi ng budget planning. No? And as you have probably done in class or in your work, there's a need for presenting several batches or groups of data. And sometimes it gets too cluttered. No? Parang gusto natin napakita lahat ng detalye, pero hindi naaayon yung paraan para ipakita dun sa mga nakikinig natin, sa audience, sa boss or the rest of the team, no? So kailangan pipinuhin pa yan. Okay? And then minsan nung I think this was early in the pandemic or right before the pandemic. This was Christmas time, no? May nag-aaya ng kainan sa may Kainta, no? So galing Makati. So inisip ko gaano katagal yung biyahe. And then if you look at this, the logarithmic scale on the left actually does nothing for you to understand the range or the details in the chart. So maybe that's not the best way of presenting it, and I'll show you how to change that as well later. Okay, so for NCR population, this actually represents 3 data sets, no? Population, number of barangay, and average household size. No? And as you see in this very, very tight or cluster of overlapping circles, no? There's no way to distinguish across these several cities. No? Ang nangyari sa laki ng population ng bayan na to or ng city na to, no? And, it skews the whole chart. And then on the other end of the spectrum, sa dami naman ng barangay dito, and this is Manila, it also skews the chart in that direction. So ito yung nagka-cluster. So we'll find out how to fix this in a bit. Okay. So sabi nga ng dati kong boss, no, if the data is there, collect it because it is valuable. It can give you insight for how to make decisions in the future. And that's the reason that we collect it. Okay? So the question now lies is what data to collect. Hindi naman pwedeng lahat na lang ng points i-collect natin to the point that there's also duplication or redundancy. And then the question also of how to collect that data. If it actually intrudes on the process and makes it more difficult for people to go along with it, there's no use in interfering with your process just to collect data. So you have to find a non-intrusive way of collecting that data. And of course, siguro the overarching reason for collecting all this data is for us to understand what's happening, as well as to help others understand that data. So papasok na tayo dun sa 4 earlier examples. One way to show it would be to provide clearly differentiated segments on a pie chart. And this is done on Google Sheets, and it's easy as in Google Excel, as in Excel, I mean. And then when you look at this, maybe the only caveat to this example would be, instead of having a 10 item range, nag-extend lang ako dito 18 to 29 para hindi mabukod yung 18 and 19 na age group. Okay? So you have to be clear. There's a flow to it as well, no? Na the ages are increasing in a counterclockwise manner. And then the percentages, since I do not want to highlight or focus on the percentages, but rather the age groups, the percentages are in gray. Yan. So kailangan aakayin din natin yung nakikinig sa atin, no? Para alam nila kung ano yung iniisip natin. No? Kasi hindi rin naman natin pwede ilagay lahat sa slide or sa presentation lahat ng iniisip natin. So another way of cleaning up the data would be just taking out the labels. Gusto natin i-highlight, for example, tawag sa amin dati were formators, or until now the team is still called format, or the members of the team are still called formators. We did want to see who had the highest expenditures. No? And this is usually in relation to the number of students that we have, or the number of trips that the people will take. No? And maybe not the exact number, maybe that's not important, but at least at a glance, no? If you look at student affairs activities, makikita natin na si 3, 6, and 8 are the top. No? And then when we look at the transportation, we also see that 6 has the highest, with 2 and 3 following. No? So it depends on what we want our audience to see. And actually, that is a greater responsibility as data stewards and data engineers. No? So kailangan din alagaan yun. Kasi pwedeng, as Monty just mentioned, no, yung you are manipulating or changing the data for your own purposes. So to change it again further, no, eventually hindi na ako pumunta dun sa kaibigan ko. No? Tinamad na ako. Pero nakita ko lang na, okay, 8:00 pala yung pinakamaraming biyahe. No? Pinaka-traffic na bumiyahe ng ganun kalayo. No? And an average of about 50 minutes, 30 to 50 minutes travel time. But yun nga, madaling araw or after 11, saka lang gagaang yung traffic. No? And this is extracted from Waze. Waze is a function for plotting out travel time according to departure time. Yan. So, okay, so yung kanina, makita natin, no, merong 3 na malayo doon sa scale. No? So it pulls everything out. No? So here, in a range of 0 to 1 million population, we can clearly see that all the cities fall under this rectangle with number of barangays at 35. No? Ano ba yung gusto kong mangyari dito? No? I did want to show that the number of barangays is related to the population of that city. No? According to law, it's highly urbanized cities are in the range of about 5,000 people. No? And that can be a means for gauging how much service is received by the constituents. No? Pag sobrang dami ba ng mamamayan sa isang lugar, mas kakaunti ang natatanggap o natatamasa nila na nanggagaling dun sa LGU nila. No? So yan. So syempre hindi rin naman natin pwedeng baliwalain yung 3 o 4 na nawala dito sa chart. So I just transferred it into a table. And to highlight, the one with the highest population has a less or a smaller number of barangays, versus the second most populated city has the most number of barangays. No? So if we divide this by the old rule for barangays is 300 constituents are considered a barangay, or 300 households. No? So parang tama ba yung numero ng barangay? Tama ba yung bilang ng barangay? And siguro what makes this difficult, to go back one slide, is that the sizes of the households are almost the same, with the range of 3.7 to about 4.3. Therefore, yung diameter nito, it's barely distinguishable from each other. So there may be another way of showing that. Okay, So for the third part, again from Nancy Duarte, the expectations to be a good communicator is greater when you're actually working with data. Uh, it may be it may be too complacent, no, to actually consider, okay naman yung presentation, the presentation will speak for itself, no, and I don't need to work on it. But actually, that's part of the challenge when you're dealing with data. And according to her, it actually is the transition from making sense of data to actually creating meaning for that data. No? Paano ba natin papahalagahan yung alam na natin para mababago natin yung gagawin o yung ginagawa? And in the workforce, 2/3 of roles actually handle some form of data, not necessarily financial. And for the engineers in the room, it could be production numbers, it could be workforce numbers, it could be inventory numbers. No? And if you're dealing with several thousand tons, and that was what we were doing in logistics before, coming in every week, no? Hindi pwedeng basta-bastang bibilangin mo isa-isa yan, or you hire more people to actually count it. And there are ways of monitoring that. Okay, and then siguro what's more important to look at is for ourselves. No, are we simply PowerPoint or slides creators, no? Or are we data explorers and explainers? No? And the challenge actually is, as you explore the data, you actually get to learn to explain this data, and then you elevate your craft, no? Yung kalinangan mo dun sa pagbahagi ng data to the level that you become an advisor. And when people actually listen to you as an advisor, you turn out to be a leader in your own field. Okay. Then my second to the last slide is you attach data to something relatable so that people will actually remember. And then you talk about humans in data and find that connection. Because lahat naman ng ginagawa natin, even with the environment, for example, no? The amount of trash or waste produced in a certain city, there's a relation to the person listening to you. If it is in terms of the number of vehicles on the road, or the effect of the carbon footprint on global temperature and sea level rise, no? We have to find that way that builds that engagement with our audience. And for the last bit, leveraging time when presenting data just means to say you add a little suspense to it. That's why when I opened this presentation, sabi ko I cannot discuss all 4 hours of 3 courses, so around 12 to 15 hours of lecture in this 20-minute talk, and I'm already at 18 minutes. So I do hope that you sign up for Sparta. I do hope you find a reason to apply it. And then part of what I discussed in the 3 courses across spreadsheet management, data visualization, and storytelling are the following. And one thing that's important and applicable to any field in any job is actually the ethics and responsibility as data stewards and managers. So yeah, with that, please reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And then I will turn it back to Eleanor for the rest of the afternoon session. Thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you so much, Sir Cricket, for giving us an overview of the good practices in visualizing and presenting data. Marami pong salamat. He's presenting all the way from the USA. Tama po ba, sir?
Yes. It's actually 12:42 ng madaling araw. No? So
marami pong salamat for staying up late for this webinar. And at this point, we are pleased to present to you this e-certificate of appreciation from the team of Project Sparta to express our gratitude. This is signed by Dr. Alan S. Cajes, Vice President and Sparta Project Lead, Development Academy of the Philippines. And before we open the virtual floor for the question and answer, let us first give our resource experts some time to breathe. Again, this Project Sparta webinar, which by the way is the second webinar event for this year. The first being, if you could recall, is the Game Changers. And this is being live streamed via the Project Sparta Facebook page. And we have viewers as far as in Iloilo City, Bukidnon. We have learners, we have from the academy and the government. And please post your questions in the chat box. And we will try to address the relevant questions later. Are we now ready for the open forum? Again, joining us are Professor Monty and Sir Cricket. Kindly open your webcam po. Okay, let's look at the first question. I think this was posted in the Facebook page. Let's see. Okay, the first question is, any one of you can answer, sirs. What is the biggest challenge, or can you tell us something about the challenges that you have encountered in data preparation?
Sige,
Anyone po?
siguro dahil that was my talk, I can answer first. So personally, yung pinakamahirap na na-encounter ko really was yung pag-reconcile ng mga different file formats. I think it's one of the problems that really is overlooked when you're doing data engineering. Okay, especially if you have a different sources. It may seem like a very trivial problem, but if you're dealing with a company which has multiple departments, and each department has reports, different data stores. Some of them store in Excel, some of them have specific software that produce their own file type. So the yung problem na yun, for mind you, it's really just one. It happens even if it's just one company. Kaya, so within the company, it's very difficult to reconcile the data itself. So that, I think, for everything, considering everything I discussed, that was the most difficult. Uh, Additionally, kasi the steps to deal with that really are less defined than the other ones. Like for the outlier detection and removal, mas madali siya eh. You have uh, a fixed list of steps, right? But for the process of marrying the different data sources, there is no easy way. I think there's no easy way to do it. You just need to go on and take a look and try to think using your experience how to uh, make them all compatible.
You mentioned about the ano no, sir, yung outlier. There's one question posted in the Facebook page. That question is, when can we say that the data is an outlier? And when removing outliers, do we consider removing the whole responses of an individual?
For the outliers, again, there are multiple ways of detecting. One is, as I discussed earlier, the 1.5 times the IQR method. If it's outside that range, because if you use that method, you're gonna get a range, and that range will include all points that are considered regular or non-outliers. So if it's outside that range, you will be able to determine that the point is an outlier. And sorry, what was the second part of the question again?
The second part was, when removing outliers, do you consider removing the whole responses of an individual?
Well, if that individual has multiple entries in the data set, I think only you can. It would be better if you just remove the specific points that are outliers, not all the points of that individual, even if some are within the acceptable bounds.
Thank you, Monty, and I hope we answered the question of the those who posted in the Facebook page. And there's this question: what are the factors that we need to consider in imputing missing values? Sino po ang pwedeng sumagot?
Ako na rin po, Sir Chris.
Go ahead, sir.
For data imputation, one method, well, the simplest one is really just to get the mean. Okay, if you have a lot of data points for that column, for example, and only one is missing, one method is to just get the mean of the values, then fill in that value after getting the mean. If that value is non-numerical, you can use other methodologies such as classification methodology, so your k nearest neighbors, and so on, to predict that value. Okay, and siguro something I can share about data imputation. The larger your data set is, or slash the um, the higher the discrepancy with the filled data is to the one that's missing, the less relevant the missing data point is. So it's really much better to do imputation if you have a lot of data to parang cover for that missing data point.
Salamat, Monty. I'd like to segue, no, kasi I'm very also interested dun sa um the project which Cricket participated in 2020, tama, sir? With the Earth Observation Dashboard Hackathon, which you and your team um, won or got into the finals with over 4,000 participants from 132 countries and territories out of the 233 projects. And it aimed at solving challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic using data from the Earth Observing Dashboard. So you use big data here, ano po, Sir Cricket. Can you tell us something about it? Kasi papunta rin tayo dun sa how DSA can help solve the pressing problems of our times.
Yes, Eleanor, no? So si Neil din has a similar question. How do we use storytelling for COVID, no, in improving COVID? We did the team looked at alternative data sets kasi uh, parang hindi ka makapag-survey ng or hindi ka makakausap ng tao during the pandemic. So what we did was to use mobility data sets as well as um, environmental factors for proxies or as proxies for economic movement or physical movement as well. No? So that was the challenge at that time, and you're lucky to get into the finals. But also the project is something that we're still continuing to develop. So we're also looking at other sources of data for that.
Thank you, Cricket. And this one is, parang pang Miss Universe question to. Sa inyong dalawa to eh. What is your advice daw to individuals who do not have a background in DSA but want to enter in the field of DSA and take the role of data engineers like you? Monty?
Sige po, una na ako. Okay, ako ang mabibigay ko lang advice is really just do it. You can enroll in courses such as SPARTA. Parang don't be intimidated by DSA. It may be hard. There are topics definitely under DSA that are quite complex, but it's easy to start, I would say. Yeah, there are a lot of tools in the internet, and again, Sparta is really a good starting point. If you go into it, you take yung mga basic courses first, and so on. Perhaps do a bit of self-studying in the side to support your taking of the actual course. You'll be able to do it no matter what your background is. Of course, kailangan rin there's effort and interest on the side of the learner. Pero with enough motivation, again, even if your background is, I think there's one from the chat na agriculture. Even with that, kayang-kaya yun. It really is no problem. It's not going to be a hurdle.
Yeah, I agree with Monty. No, na everybody can actually join different fields, no, and each field has their own unique data set to crunch and look at. No? And the challenge is your openness to actually try it out, because there has to be a creative way also of applying things to your field. There's actually data science for mapping pictures, for example, or colors. There's a tool that you can count the number of pixels in what specific color or number of colors there are in that picture, no? But yeah, siguro for another time yun. But yeah, so yeah, just join and try it out and figure it out also.
Thank you, Monty and Cricket. And there's this another, for me, this is very technical, no, because I'm a Broadcom graduate in UP. So I'm really trying to rack my head, understanding everything here. So to all our online viewers, please help me with your relevant questions. So there's this question: can we use a data dictionary so that we have a standard?
Yeah, you need a data dictionary essentially for anything. We just came off health, or we're three-fourths of the way in a health project, no? And we started with a data dictionary. And in terms of standardization, maybe within the project, it has to be standard for everybody to know what everyone else is doing. But siguro on a broad spectrum dictionary, baka malayo pa tayo doon. So, yeah.
How about ano po, yung database normalization for data management?
Okay, maybe I can answer this one. Same idea. These are really parang essential building blocks for any system that you're trying to put up. So for the database normalization, that's really just standard steps so that your database is optimized and you won't have repeating tables, repeating fields, repeating columns. So this is part, if you're advertise ka na rin data engineering. No? If you're going to data engineering, these are the basic concepts that you will learn. Essential talaga yung data normalization, data dictionaries, and so on.
Paano daw kapag yung sobrang dami ng missing values? Is data imputation still applicable?
For the multiple missing values, actually data imputation, I would liken it to if you know the concept of training and testing models. Okay, the more data points you have for the training of the model, the better, the more accurate the model will be. If more data points are missing, then you will have less data points for training, and yung output mo will definitely be of lower quality. So data imputation, definitely the quality of the data will decrease if you have more than one, the more missing values that you have in general. Um, in general, para sa ano lang talaga yan yung mga paisa-isang nawawala in thousands or 10,000s of data, just so you can avoid errors when you process the data itself.
Mm. And they're also asking for examples of data imputation.
For examples of the data imputation, I think I mentioned some a while ago. So some concrete examples nga, it depends of course on the type of data that you have. If you have numerical data, you can do a mean, mode, you can do regression perhaps. For qualitative data, you can run your classification methodologies that would also effectively just predict the most likely value of that missing data point. So, yan dyan yung mga nearest neighbors, random forests, and so on.
Any other questions from the virtual floor? I think I've exhausted all the questions from the Facebook page, from our Facebook page. Do you have anything to promote, Sir Monty? I saw that you have some online videos posted at the UPOU and at the engineering department. Do you have a YouTube account?
YouTube account wala po. Ang pa-promote ko lang siguro is Sparta. I have one course in Sparta. 702. I'm the one actually adding that. So again, it's a good starting point. That course specifically can cater to those with minimal background of DSA. Of course, you're going to need the basics like some statistical knowledge, some knowledge on coding, pero yun, you can take that course if you're interested. Yun lang
A-
naman, wala ko ibang.
And you're also handling courses, Sir Cricket, sa Project Sparta, right? Do you have any
Yes.
message to your students and would-be students?
I hope they enjoy the exercises. But yun, no, the challenge more is looking for applications to our own individual context. We made the course in such a way that you work with your own data. Kasi kesa sa ipipilit yung data, we hope that you find your own understanding of your data as well.
Any upcoming competitions, sir?
Nasa pahinga muna, none at the moment, no? But we're happy to maybe magpo-post na lang kami. We also have a YouTube channel, no, for ethics.ph. So baka doon na lang abangan kung may announcement ulit.
That's good to know. Ito na lang po, last na lang, pang Miss Universe uli na question. What is the toughest, kaway-kaway sir, what is the toughest part of being a data engineer? Monty?
Yung sahod. Pero I would say in general, hindi for data engineering specifically, hindi pa siya ganun ka kinikilala or binibigyan ng importance, even if I would again argue that it's as important as the jobs of the data scientists and data analysts. So yun, the fact that you have to parang emphasize the importance of your job, the job of a data engineer, yun yung parang kailangan talaga ano ngayon, i-push right now, I would say.
Thank you, Cricket.
Pang universe daw eh. Can I have the question again? Oh, but biro lang. Siguro the difficulty would be two things, no? Wala kang data, meaning wala kang gagawin. Pangalawa, wala yung data, tapos ayaw ibigay sa iyo yung data. Okay, so you have to find creative ways for that. And the challenge nga is, baka face value, wala yung data, but there is one way or another to look for it. So yun yung challenge, no? And it will be frustrating because not everybody will understand what we do. So kailangan pang ipaliwanag yun. So yeah.
Thank you so much to our resource experts. Ang dami pong natutunan sa inyo, especially from those who are in the field of DSA and engineering. In fact, it is very evident in our number of attendees. 300 plus pa rin po tayo, and we have some viewers via Facebook page. Thank you so much for giving time for this. Pwede na po kayong matulog after this, Sir Cricket. Marami pong salamat at sa uulitin uli. And can we have a picture? Ito pong forum na ito, Nico. Kami pong sa open forum.
Sure, miss.
Thank
One,
you.
2, 3. All right.
Maraming
Okay na po,
salamat.
miss.
Thank you so much again, Sir Monty and Sir Cricket. And Sir Monty, ang daming kumakaway sa'yo sa Facebook. Kaway-kaway ka rin daw po. To formally end this event, I now give you the project manager of Sparta, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Rhea Geraldino, for the closing.
Thank you, Miss Ellie. I hope I can be heard. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. I'd like to thank our speakers, Dr. Rubira Terta of UST Fisherin, and our subject matter experts, Mr. Simon Anthony Lorenzo, and Mr. Gabriel Christopher Su for your active involvement in the conduct of this event. Your presence is always appreciated and welcome. I'd also like to express my gratitude to the participants, more than 300 participants, for staying and dedicating their time and effort in joining us in today's webinar. In Sparta, we always say that data science and analytics leads us to actionable insights that pave way for solutions to problems or pain points, or sometimes creation of ways that make things easier and better, or faster and cheaper. So just imagine the volume of data we have in this digital age. In the social sector, for example, we look at the total population and growth rate, education and health requirements, housing infrastructure across all demographics. On the economic sector, what we usually look at is the income strata, agricultural, commerce, and industry profile, among others. Not to mention the massive data that we have across social media platforms. And now, as Sparta scholars, I want you to imagine the number of opportunities and real-world applications that await you in the world of data science and analytics, given these data. In saying this, I'd like to reiterate that Sparta is committed in preparing you for these boundless opportunities. Aside from the 6 learning pathways and 30 courses to build your knowledge and skill sets, Sparta also has the hackathon and open data challenges to both test and fine-tune your knowledge and skills on data preparation, visualization, and storytelling. This is your opportunity to apply what you've learned of data science and analytics in real-life scenarios. In fact, by joining these competitions, you will help build a better and brighter future, not just for yourselves, but for your fellow Filipinos by contributing to our shared vision of cultivating a data-driven Philippines. So again, I'd like to announce that the registration for the first leg of the Hackathon and Open Data Challenge for the city of Butuan will be accepted until the end of this week. That's August 15. So I highly encourage those who haven't participated yet to take the challenge and join these competitions. Consider Sparta as your stepping stone towards your own professional and personal success by strengthening your foundations right before you venture into the practice of data science and analytics, akin to the idea of preparing before the rubber meets the road. Once again, I express my gratitude to those who have made this event possible, especially to our resource speakers, our partners, and participants who have been with us here today. I hope that your enthusiasm towards the exciting and transformative field of data science and analytics translates into your desire of enrolling in the project, in completing your chosen pathway, and becoming our partner in achieving a smarter Philippines. On behalf of the project team, maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you, Ms. Rhea. Today's event gave us the opportunity to understand the importance of effectively communicating with data, as it is considered to be the new oil and knowledge the new currency. We are bombarded with huge amounts of data every day, in as much as we need to be well informed in the field of DSA to be able to make use of them wisely. Again, we appreciate everyone for taking the time to participate in this event. Thank you very much to our speakers, Dr. Ruby Raterta, Sir Monty, and Sir Cricket, for all your efforts and support. Now, before we end, please accomplish our evaluation form through the link sent in the chat box for your certificate of attendance. Please stay tuned for more data science and analytics events in the future, and feel free to reach us through our email sparta@dep.edu.ph and Facebook page at Sparta Project Sparta PH, and online community at Community Sparta PH. And now, to officially cap off the event, we would like to invite everyone to please turn on your web cameras for the group photo. Man, please give us the cue.
Ready po. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Next screen po. Please turn on your tab. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. Next screen po. Meron po tayong 12 screens. Ayan. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Ayan, one more po. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you po.
Can we please spotlight? Tapos na ba yun, Maan? The whole participants were captured?
Yes,
All
miss.
of them? Yes? Can we spotlight our resource speakers, including the Project Sparta team for the group photo? Please give the cue, Nico, Maan.
Sure, miss.
Maan, are you still there?
And I think we're good, miss.
Yes,
We're good.
Yes.
Thank
Let's
you
take a
so
pic.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Marami pong salamat. Tapos na po ang ating programa. Once again, this is the Sparta Webinar, Keeping Up with Data Revolution. Thank you so much po. At sa uulitin po ulit sa ating resource experts. Stay safe. Sir Cricket, stay safe po sa US. And we hope to see you soon in the upcoming Sparta events. Thank you so much and stay healthy, everyone.
May thermostat. Ang nag-iibot